If only I could look like everyone else, my life would be perfect. My son, the light was going out of his eyes, was diagnosed as pre-diabetic, and he was heavy too. So I came for vanity to begin with. I also came to help my son heal, and I stayed for the remarkable benefits.
Kelly, what was that like? Were you surprised that you could make the cravings go away? Hey everybody, Dr. Joan Ifland here. I am here with my wonderful colleague, Kelly McIntosh. We are going to be talking about what it is like to recover from processed foods. And I am just thrilled that you are here with us. So welcome, Kelly. Thank you so much for joining me. And Kelly has been through extensive training in the addiction reset community, and she is a food addiction recovery advocate. So, Kelly, where does your story start? What is your earliest memory of being whipped around and by processed foods?
So thank you for having me, Joan, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. I'm the eldest of 6 children, born on the island of Jamaica. I still live here. I'm coming to you now from Jamaica. And I have always been heavier than everyone else in my family, in my class, all growing up. And there was nothing, I had a huge appetite. I had a huge appetite. And while we didn't necessarily eat a lot of so called junk food in my household, we certainly ate a lot of sugar and refined flour. And I just had a bottomless pit when it came to my appetite. And so I grew up feeling like the odd one out all the time because I looked different from everyone else. And I can remember as early as 13 years old going to the gym, exercising like crazy. I tried every single diet. I used to think if only I could look like everyone else, my life would be perfect. And that continued throughout adulthood, all the way up until I was 49, and I had given up. I had just said, enough. You're just going to retire heavy. That's it, Kelly. Punto final. But my son, who was now 14 years old, was diagnosed as pre diabetic, and he was heavy too. And I thought, no, I can't let my son do this. And I had, in all my trials of different ways of eating, found a way of eating that had worked for me 14 years prior, which focused on whole foods. And I thought, let's give it one more try for Nicholas. For Nicholas, let's do it. And we spoke, and that started our recovery journey. Um, that was 6.5 years ago, and I'm still in recovery. I'm happy to report that Nicholas changed his entire life. We both lost weight, and we both changed the way we ate. So I came for vanity to begin with. I also came to help my son heal, and I stayed for the remarkable benefits that I've discovered eating a whole food diet.
Yes, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to create this podcast, because people have no idea what processed foods are denying them. There's a whole life on the other side of processed foods, and the processed food manufacturers, they don't care that they're denying us these wonderful lives. So we do have to give a little background. We all know now that when the tobacco industry, R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris, bought Kraft, Nabisco, and General Foods in the mid 1980s, they bought 10% of American food consumption in 3 short years, and they brought their addiction business model with them. And that is why we're all here today. And that's why Kelly and I are so excited that you're here, because once you know that, once you know that it's the cravings that are the problem, and then you can, it's like busting out of prison, the prison of cravings in your own head, the battle in your own head. So let's start there, Kelly. What was that like? Were you surprised that you could make the cravings go away?
Yes, it felt like night and day. I remember my son saying to me, Mommy, I do not have an off switch. I can't switch off my appetite. And I said, that sounds physiological. I know what you mean, and there must be an answer that lies in something other than willpower. And when we started to eat real foods, we found that we could control. It wasn't even a conscious control of appetite. I started to feel full. I knew finally at last what feeling full felt like, what real hunger as against cravings felt like. And this is something, you're so right, Joan. This is something that I started to work with people. As people saw me losing weight, they'd say, Kelly, what are you doing? And I would tell them. And I discovered something very early on in trying to help people. I would give person A and person B the same information. Here, go eat this. Person A would do well, and person B would flounder. So it wasn't a matter of information only. It wasn't just about information. And that's what got me thinking, no, 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 there's more to this story. And I started trying to find ways to be a more effective coach. And I came upon the notion of processed food addiction. And that's how I found you.
Uh huh. Uh huh. So I remember where I was sitting when the cravings stopped, because I didn't ever know that they were cravings. I thought everybody thought about food all the time. I can remember going to kindergarten and being kind of panicked because I couldn't just walk out to the kitchen and make myself a processed food snack whenever I wanted. And I just had no idea. The cravings are not normal. Cravings are one of the signs, one of the 11 signs of processed food addiction. And I was January 4th, 1996. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting at my dining room table and I got up after 4 hours and I thought, how could it be noon? How could it have been 4 hours?
Yes,
I haven't thought about food in 4 hours. Did
that's
you
it.
have a moment like that?
Yes, that's it, Joan. And I remember it striking me months into eating like this that I'm no longer a slave to these intense cravings and needing to eat every hour on the hour. And I went, oh, this is what mastery feels like. For the first time in my life, I felt as if I was in the driver's seat when it came to my relationship with food. And it was a wonderful, freeing feeling that I discovered.
It's incredible. You make me think of the origin of the word addiction is to enslave. So in ancient times, if a man got into debt and couldn't pay it off, he could pay off the debt by selling himself into slavery. And that process of selling yourself into slavery was called addiction.
Wow.
It was the
Wow.
process of addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a perfect word.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing to experience this liberation when it came to food. Because, like other people I've worked with, we have evidence in our lives of being successful, of being achievers, but there's just something where food was concerned, where we couldn't get in the driver's seat. And I would say to people, you have evidence that it is not that you lack willpower or drive or discipline. Look at what you've done over here. It's got to be something else at play when it comes to your food.
I've had that desperate, it's tearful frustration. I'm good in all areas of my life and I can't get this one thing. What is wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. You're being assaulted by an
Yes.
addiction business model.
Mhm.
This is the same business model the tobacco industry used to addict 2/3 of American adults to cigarettes. They're tragically good at it, but that's all it is. It's a business model.
Yes.
I mean, when you have your talk to your son about this, what can you
Oh,
possibly say when you know this was deliberately done to you?
he has he has expressed such anger to me
Mm,
that we have been taught all the wrong things with nutrition. We have been taught all the wrong things. And I said to him, let's look forward. And he said, Mommy, have you ever imagined the trajectory of our lives had we not made the change? I said, I don't even want to think about it.
oh, yeah.
Instead, I prefer to think about how wonderful the new doors that have opened up for you and for me. I
Yeah.
said, our lives have changed radically and they're wonderful now. And all we can do is just, if people are interested, share with them. Those who want an option, those who want a way out, there's a way out.
Kelly, I think this is the hardest thing for me, being free. I just gradually walked out of that prison. Sometimes I turned around and walked back in, but I knew the way out. I got back out again. I've been doing this for 28 years now, and it hasn't always been perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But, for me, this is like I have an answer, a huge answer. And it's so hard when people are not yet in a place where they can hear it. And I know you and I share this heart. We want everybody to know. So I know you're doing things to spread the word. You've got a private practice. You help members in the ARC. What do you like doing? What's the most fun part of it?
So let me see if I can frame this. I want to help people bring their lives into alignment. Sometimes we don't even know how bad we feel until we start to feel good. And when I came off all the processed foods, in particular the refined grain and the refined sugar, my brain fog lifted. And all of a sudden, I had clarity. I could think, I could process, I had energy, I had physical energy, and then I found purpose in trying to help people make better choice. There's so much confusing information coming at people. There are a million so-called recovery programs that say, here, drink this, eat this, do this way. And people just want help that works. And
That
that's my
works.
passion, to
Mhm.
simplify it, to take the guilt and the stress and the shame away from choices that you've made up until now and say, here you go. This is
Yeah.
how it this is how it's done.
This is such a gift you're giving people, that it is the processed foods. But the other thing is that it takes a while. It could take months, it could take years to develop the very detailed skill set that it takes to live differently. Really, the rest of the culture is quite sick. They're overweight. They're eating most of their food in processed foods. 1.6 million Americans will die this year from processed foods, et cetera, et cetera. So those of us who escape that prison, we're living quite differently from other people. Do you think that's hard?
So it absolutely is hard. And if you look at the same addiction business model that you spoke about, Joan, it's almost as if the deck is stacked against us, which
Mm-hmm.
is why the approach that we take in offering peer support to people who want an option, why it works. One of the most freeing philosophies that I discovered was you have all the time in the world. It
Mm-hmm.
sounds counterintuitive, right? When somebody in a recovery program says, slow down, take your time. It sounds as if we're offering a cop out, but the opposite happens. When we are relieved of the pressure to fix ourselves and we understand the root of the addiction, and we're told, we're invited to just hang on, take it step by step. What is your next right step today? All of a sudden the pressure comes off and
Yep.
you go, oh, okay, let me try this, let
Not
me
so hard
see how,
after all.
one step at a time. What's your next right step? What's
Mhm.
my next right step?
Yeah.
That's it.
We're so lucky. We're so lucky we're free of this. I like that you brought up we have all the time in the world. We know, for example, that quick weight loss, the quicker you lose the weight, the quicker it's going to come back on. We know that lowers your resting energy expenditure rate. It's going to be the faster you go, the more you upset your food seeking body, the more you wake up your fear of famine body, and the more likely it is that the weight will come back on quicker each time and plus more. So I know for me, I was a yo yo dieter for 10 years and it was just getting worse and worse. The weight was going up and up. So, this idea that you can go slow, I used to say the slower you go, the faster, the further you get. The slower you go, the further you get. I mean, some people can go fast and they can get really far. So I had to stop saying that. But
Yes.
the point is what you're making, which is that being at peace, being calm about it, the stress of losing weight quickly, which is stressful on many different levels, practically guarantees that it's going to come back.
Yes,
Yay.
absolutely, absolutely. And so the freedom to explore and to chart your own course is what makes it stick. And you know, the wonderful thing, Joan, let me just say to anybody who is listening and is down in despair, because I understand the urgency when you want to lose weight, you want to feel better, and you want to do it now. Our bodies are marvelously forgiving. And when you start to nourish yourselves with whole foods, everything you want will come to you and more and more. It happens. It happens without stress. We don't need to starve ourselves. We don't need to punish ourselves with brutal, stressful exercise. All we need to do is eat real food and learn to make emotions our friends. And that puts our body in the most wonderful position to heal, to lose weight, to feel better, to discover purpose. Yeah, I'm going to say it, to discover purpose and live a more wholehearted life.
Yes. I like what you said about making emotions your friends. What have you noticed about your emotional state since you got off the processed foods?
First up, I remember when I got off the processed foods, Joan, after the first month, I expected, I said, oh, I need to have shed 15 pounds. And I don't think even 3 pounds came off. But one, I had more energy. And two, I was calmer. And my husband said to me, I said, this thing is not working. I can't go on. He said, hold up. He said, your moods are better. You're a lot easier to live with.
Uh,
I said, I feel better. I said, plus our son is doing well. Okay, I'm going to stick with it. So the first thing, I was calmer, my brain worked better, and I had more energy to live my life.
These are things that people are not expecting. So it's like another weight loss program. This weight loss program is respectful of the body. So you're going to lose the weight at the pace that can the body can be comfortable with. So you're
Yes.
not going to put the body into alarm that there's a famine or that you're losing weight so quickly that probably you're dying. No, it's just this very gentle process. But it
Yes.
is the piece that really got me 28 years ago was the emotional piece. I stopped being angry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you had that experience too. Did you, when you say that your son was doing well, what did you notice in that teenager?
Oh, so Joan, I hope I can say this without breaking down into tears because
It's
this is the
okay.
most moving part of my story. My son, the light was going out of his eyes. And when he first started to lose weight, he said to me, Mommy, people see me now. And he said, I can now participate in class without my size being an issue. Because he's a very bright kid. And he would participate and they would shut him down with the most horrible descriptors. And so he was just shrinking into himself. He got his confidence. He knew he built character because he was able to decide I'm eating this. It's different from everybody else, but I know why I'm eating this way. I know how I'm feeling. He went on to play sports, which he loved to do, but he was never chosen for any teams because of his size. And I saw Nicholas start to take up leadership positions at school. Um, and he ended up doing a gap year between high school and college. He became a certified physical trainer because he wanted
Wow.
to. He did in his gap year, and he taught himself German, and he's at university in Germany now. And
Oh
I
my
know it is because he ate clean and freed his mind, freed his
goodness.
body, freed his spirit to be his
Hmm.
best self
Well,
ever.
early in the conversation, you talked about mental clarity. And I do remember that same morning when I was shocked that I hadn't thought about food for 4 hours, that feeling of clearing, that mental clarity. We know that processed foods are inflammatory, and we think that the brain fog is because the brain is inflamed. And so, especially with teenagers, college students, masters, any kind of a student, you've invested money and time and energy into that education. And then the idea that the school cafeteria gives you processed foods and now your brain's inflamed and you can't think, you can't remember, you can't pay attention, you can't learn. All the blood is being pulled away from your frontal lobe where you learn and retain and make decisions. That is just, it's just horrifying what schools do. But I have noticed that schools are doing better and better in terms of the food that they offer the children, except schools that are federally funded in the US. And then now they're a slave to the USDA contracts, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't get to choose what comes into their schools.
In Jamaica, there is a movement to in fact, they passed it into law to limit sugary drinks. That is where it is starting in Jamaica.
Super,
And
super.
there is a move to provide more healthful options for students. But I couldn't wait on that. I had to do my duty as a parent
Yeah,
and say,
yeah,
take
yeah.
this, eat this.
Take this food with you. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I still do it today. I take food with
Mhm,
me.
mhm.
If I'm going somewhere and I'm not sure when I'm going to be back, I will. And it's delightful just to sit down in a park and eat your food outside. Yeah, I mean, the cleaner I get, the longer I get clean, the more likely it is that something in a restaurant meal will I just won't feel well afterwards. And
Correct.
I don't have time to spend on that anymore. I've got so many fun things to do. What's the funnest? Tell me, like, the funnest thing that you ever said to somebody else. Like the funnest time that you had walking with somebody out of this prison.
So I worked with somebody who had done all the so-called right things. She was a marathon runner. She just couldn't. She was still eating stuff and not feeling and looking the way she wanted to. And she was diagnosed with sleep apnea and was about to be put on a CPAP machine. And there's nothing wrong with them. But I said to her, stick with me for 30 days. Let's try this way of eating. And she did. And her sleep apnea resolved to the point where she could defer buying that. Here's what happened, though. Here's what happened, Joan. She took that. She had walked out of a very bad relationship and lost everything. With the money that she saved, not having to purchase the CPAP machine, she paid down on a new apartment for herself.
Oh,
she went back to school.
Yeah.
She went back to school. She got her degree. And 4 years later, we're still in touch. And she's living an empowered life, making choices about her career, about her personal life. She's happy. And this is what I call bringing your life into alignment. And it started when she stopped eating the crap.
You know, that is a great way to end this discussion. People might step into this for weight loss. But, oh my gosh, then, you know, dozens and dozens and dozens, mood and mental and energy and mobility, relationships and opportunities. Your life just starts blossoming and blossoming and blossoming. But it all happens in its own time. Everything that was impossible before you get off the processed foods becomes possible. And the only other thing I would like to mention is that I know Kelly and Kelly knows me because we are in an online community together, the ARC, the ARC at foodaddictionreset.com. And that makes everything possible. So Kelly and I, even though we don't eat like the rest of the world and we're healthier than the rest of the world, we still feel normal because it's very easy for us to get on Zoom with our other people who are eating this way and getting these results. So Kelly, one last word for your audience.
There is a way out. It's predicated on community, on information, and learning to listen to your own inner wisdom with peer support. There is a way out. We do not have to settle.
No. I'm just going to say one other thing, and then I'm going to just say a big vote of gratitude to the staff at the ARC who made this podcast possible. My parting words: this is not your fault. This is the tobacco industry, all dressed up in these toxic processed foods. You didn't do anything for that weight gain. You didn't do anything for the weight regain. You didn't do anything now that you can't lose weight. You didn't cause the diabetes. You didn't cause the heart disease. None of it. And it's not your fault that you gave these foods to your children. We have been deeply deceived. So until I see you again, thank you for coming today. Thank you, Kelly, for being my guest. And I'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate your interest. Tell the next person. You can walk the next person out of this processed food nightmare with what you learned today. See you next time.